All right, welcome back. And we're going to finish out this series with this Sony Mirrorless 6100 camera. Now, this is the first mirrorless camera that we've taken a look at. Everything else to this point has been DSLR. However, both Nikon and Canon do produce mirrorless cameras, but Sony is basically only in the mirrorless market. Now, this 6100 is a little bit more than the standard DSLR, but it's not something that's out of the price range of any beginner. To take your lens on and off, basically this is your lens release button right down here. We have right here and right here are your camera strap holders. This is an illumination for when you press your self timer. This will flash faster and faster just before it's about to take the photo. So let's go ahead and move on to the side of the camera. So this is one side of the camera. The other side is going to allow you to put your memory card in. This side has a slot for HDMI and a microphone. You can see right here, your LCD actually is out in this camera. It's not fixed to the back of the camera. So now we have the rear of the camera, and this is where most of everything is going to be going on. The first thing that we have up here is our hot shoe. So up here is this hot shoe. You're going to put your external flash to this hot shoe. This camera does have an internal kind of pop-up flash. You would press this button right here and this flash would pop up. This is your viewfinder. This is how you're going to look and see what's going on in your camera. This is an electronic viewfinder. So one thing that's interesting using an electronic viewfinder that you don't see in an optical viewfinder is if your exposure is off, you're going to see that through your viewfinder. So if you're way too dark or way too bright, you're going to see this inside of your electronic viewfinder. So not only are you going to have a meter, but you're also going to see sort of a dark exposure as well. Right here is your diopter. You can use the diopter to correct for minor vision issues. A lot of people don't like to look through a camera with their glasses on. This is going to allow you to correct for some minor vision issues. What you're going to do is look through your camera, focus on something, and then adjust that little diopter. When it's the most clear, then it's perfectly set for you. Now, one thing I would say is putting a little piece of gaffer's tape can be helpful because it's easy to move those little buttons. Right here is your main menu, and this is going to bring up the menu. This is going to basically allow you to configure or set up your camera how you want. Right here, we have auto exposure lock. So when you are in a semi-automatic mode or an automatic mode and you want to lock in your exposure, you can press that button and then your exposure and your meter will not change. However, you can also change this to use this as your rear focus button. I've stated in the two other videos that I'm a big fan of back button or rear focus. I don't really care which one you use, but it creates an independent button just for focus. And that way the shutter button on the top of your camera, which normally has 3 completely different functions, allocates just focusing to the rear focus. If you haven't tried this and you're a beginning photographer, I would say go ahead, take a look at your manual and find out how to change this to turn this on as your focus button. It's definitely worth your while. Right over here, this little red button over here is going to be a record for video. We have a function button here. So this function button is going to bring up a specific display here. Right here we have display. Display is going to bring up certain items on your LCD. This right here is going to be your self timer or kind of shutter mode button. Basically, this is going to allow you to take a single picture, continuous pictures, or a self timer mode. Pressing here is going to allow you to set your ISO. This is going to be for setting 2 different things actually. So one, it's going to let you adjust for exposure compensation. So whether you want to purposely over or underexpose your images. And this is a multi-selector, so it's going to allow you to adjust your focus points inside of your camera. Normally, your camera is going to be focused on the center, but if you want to move around to one of your other focus points, Pressing this is going to allow you to adjust that. Right here is your play button. Your play button is going to allow you to view the images on the back of your camera. This is going to be a delete button. So when viewing your images, when you hit play, you can also delete them. However, if you're not viewing your images, this turns into a custom button, and you can set this up to do whatever you want. They also have another custom button. I think that's on the top of the camera as well. So let's go ahead and take a look at the top of the camera. So here's that other custom button. So you can turn this into a custom button. You can set it up however you want. This is your on-off switch. This is your shutter button. Now, by default, that shutter button is going to let you take the picture. It's also going to start the meter in your camera, and it's also going to start your autofocus. However, I do suggest that you use rear autofocus. Right here is kind of the cutout. This is where your flash will pop up in your camera. This is a different look at your hot shoe. This little thing here is a mark, and this is showing you where the sensor is on your camera. For some reason, if you wanted to manually adjust your focus and you knew exactly how far away it was, you would measure from this spot to the next spot, and then it will allow you to set that. I can't imagine that anybody actually uses that. Right here is kind of your mode dial. So we have auto, program, which is also a fully automatic, aperture priority, which you set the aperture and your camera picks everything else. Shutter priority, you pick the shutter and your camera is going to pick the aperture and ISO. Fully manual. Right here, this is your movie mode. So this is going to allow you to record video. And then we have some scene modes as well. So these are kind of like semi-automatic default modes. These help explain to your camera what type of object you're taking. Well, that's the basic layout and what each of the buttons does in your camera. Now, we will go into further explaining a lot of these different functions on cameras. I just wanted to go over a few different cameras so people kind of have an idea of what the buttons do on their cameras. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. If you have any comments or questions, you can leave those below, and don't forget to subscribe.